What about the children? What about the children? What happens to the children when political leaders of a country are caught in violence? What happens to the children? Hello, viewers. Thank you for stopping by to check us out today and join us for another episode of the mini-series, Resuscitating Kenya. This mini-series is based on my children's book titled Resuscitating Kenya. The book was written in 2010, following a hotly contested general elections of 2007-2008 in Kenya. I have stated before, and it's worth repeating again on this 6th episode, that I'm not a politician. I'm not even a student in the discipline of politics, or even a related discipline related to political science. No, I am not. My perspective and my analysis evolves from a cultural identity and recognition perspective. I come from a shared legacy, shared culture, and shared perspective of individuals who consider Kenya their heritage, their homeland, their motherland. I am a storyteller, and in this case, the story was the post-election violence that happened. It happens to be the content of the story that I'm telling right now. But I'm narrating this story told to children using the terminology of medicine, a medical terminology. The topic of today's episode is what happens to children. How violence affects children. The targeted audience of my book, Resuscitating Kenya. What happens? Who minds the children? Now, the goal of parents or families, societies, organizations, non-governmental organizations, and governments the world over, all over the globe, is to protect the children, to protect the young generation, to protect the vulnerable population. The hope is to protect children from any harm whatsoever, from a harm that can come from any direction. It is a sad feeling for a parent or even a family member. It's a very sad feeling when their capacity to protect their children or any children within that has been left under their care, when that capacity is compromised, when they are rendered disabled to protect children, their own children or children under their care. When parents cannot, it is expected that either the extended family, either the social structures put in place, sometimes even the non-governmental organizations, worst case scenario, the government of the nation, or even the international community can step in where parents are unable. They may be incapacitated in one way or another, they may be compromised, or they may be absent, not alive in this at the time. Then it is hoped that there will be an organization, an entity, a structure in place that will step in and protect the children. Among the few things that the global community agrees on is that children are to be protected. We see this on their website, the UNICEF, United Nations Children's Fund, on the opening page of their website, asking who they are, says, child protection, keeping children safe from violence, exploitation, and abuse. That's United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF. UNICEF strives to uphold the rights of every child, protecting them from harm and all forms of discrimination so that they can grow up healthy and educated to reach their full potential. This work is in line with UNICEF's global recognition and mandate and its support of national priorities. The end of June, I'll be attending a conference it's a World Child and Youth Care Conference. And that will be in St. John's, Newfoundland, on the Maritimes East End in Canada. One of the many organizations that further the cause of protecting children's rights. It will be my honor to present a workshop at that organization. It's good to know that in the academia, in the non-governmental organizations, in social structures, even in faith traditions, a key priority is protecting the children. Bringing it home to Kenya. In Kenya, there is a government department that is a Department of Children's Services. They too acknowledge that in the Department of Children's Services in the government of Kenya, they acknowledge that on their website, safeguarding and protecting the rights and welfare of children. Now, what happened during the post-election violence? The efforts of both the families, extended families, social structures, non-governmental organizations, institutions, the government itself, even the international community, their efforts to protect the children were completely compromised, were disabled. That is what happens when there is violence that goes out of control. I write on page 6 of the book, many children were caught in this struggle and suffered different losses. Some lost a parent or both parents, others a sibling, and most of them lost one or two relatives. Others managed to escape with their families to live in a camp, to camp out in open places where they could get the help of security officers and some charity organizations who are trying their best to keep these children safe and out of the path of harm. So what happened, I ask? Who took time to stop and think about the children? Should the leader of opposition and the incoming incumbent, the president, should they have just, and even their supporters, the people who are fueling this violence, people who are behind this violence, should they have taken a moment to stop and think of their own, first of all, to begin with, their own children or grandchildren, and then think about the Kenyan children? Would that have caused them to stop on their tracks, to think twice, to think about the children? If they see the images on media of children camping out on open spaces, afraid, terrified, traumatized, would that have stopped them? Next time, maybe that's what we should ask them. Think about the children. Stop and think about the children, the innocent victims, actual real victims of this violence and this dispute, caught in the middle. In my faith tradition, there are many scriptures that talk about protecting the vulnerable. God is the husband of the widows, the father of the fatherless, protecting the vulnerable, the young. There is one scripture in Proverbs 31:8 that says, speak for those who cannot speak for themselves. Children many times are the ones who cannot speak for themselves. Speak for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Think about the children. Speak on behalf of the children. And this book, Resuscitating Kenya, was my attempt to reflect on the incident and speak to the children in a language that may help them understand what happened and help them desire or think about potentially what may happen when they grow up and it's their opportunity to be leaders, to become leaders, that they'll choose different. They'll do better. Unfortunately, something they didn't learn from their parents. Next episode, we'll look at big brother, big sister stepping in. The neighbor, almost, so to speak. When the neighbor comes along, the United Nations, what was their role when they stepped in and how did that help? Join us in the next episode to see and understand the United Nations and their role and how their role played during the post-election violence, what role they played and how they did it. When the neighbor comes along in an African perspective, how is that helpful? I will join you again in the next episode with with a new episode. Until then, I'd like to hear your feedback, your comments, your insight, your questions concerning this series and this topic. Till next time, on behalf of all of us at Ebenezer Moment, thank you for stopping by and checking us out. We hope you can connect with us again for the next episode. Ebenezer.